You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor Podcast, episode 22.
For me, I'm kind of an all or nothing person, so I went from no gym membership to doing triathlons. It was something I always wanted to do, and when I heard that, I realized, I need to do it now because I don't know how much time I have left with this body, and I need to accomplish that goal while my body still can.
You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor Podcast.
Life purpose, spirituality, higher calling, personal growth, meaningful life.
We ask the deep questions about living a balanced life of meaning, purpose, and joy.
Passion, know thyself, be mindful, spiritual practice, aha moments, life lessons, balance.
It is time to welcome your host, Angie Swartz.
In 2008, Aurora Colello was diagnosed with an incurable progressive disease. Through lifestyle changes, Aurora was able to become a sponsored triathlete, racing over 21 triathlons, and has been healthy and symptom-free for the past 5 years. She is passionate about sharing and encouraging others to change their lifestyles. She is a health and wellness writer and speaker. Aurora's story has been featured on Shape Magazine, Fox News, KPBS Evening Edition, and other media outlets. She is married for 15 years and the mom of 4 children. Hello, Aurora. Welcome to the show today. Thanks for coming.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about what's going on. What have you been up to lately?
Well, I'm just starting training for my triathlon season this year. I'll be racing about 6 races, including a half Ironman in Miami in October. I'm also speaking all over the place right now, just sharing my story and encouraging people that lifestyle changes can truly change your life and, in my case, save my life. So I love sharing that and inspiring people to do just that.
And if you don't mind me asking, what was the disease that you were diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2008.
And I heard you speak once. You've done amazing things. I saw your x-rays. You've done amazing things to cure yourself.
Yes, I have some pretty amazing MRIs, and they're very powerful because an MRI doesn't lie. You can't fake an MRI. So, there's been some pretty amazing results from the lifestyle changes I've done over the years, and it shows up in my MRIs every time. And when I don't do them, that shows up as well. So it's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Right. Quite the barometer of everything you do. Huh?
Exactly. It really is. That's a great word. Mm-hmm.
And your lifestyle changes were related to diet and exercise, or?
That's the obvious. I didn't have a gym membership. I couldn't run a mile. I didn't even own a pair of gym shoes when I got sick. And when I was told, you have 10 lesions on your brain, you have multiple sclerosis, it's an incurable disease, it's a progressive disease, you'll be on medication your whole life. And by the way, where your lesions are located, you'll probably, because they're near my brainstem, they said that I'd probably be in a wheelchair within the next 5 years. And so that was a true wake-up call for sure. And I did make those changes that with my diet, and as working out. And for me, I'm a kind of an all or nothing person, so I went from no gym membership to doing triathlons. It was something I always wanted to do, and when I heard that, I realized, I need to do it now because I don't know how much time I have left with this body, and I need to accomplish that goal while my body still can. And so I began to do that. But more than that, I did a full change of every aspect of my life. It was spiritual, it was emotional, it was mental, it was physical. I worked on every area. And so it wasn't just I went all organic and, low inflammation diets and started training for triathlons. I had to work on a lot more than that. It went a lot deeper. So it was a true lifestyle change in every sense of the word.
Right. We're going to talk some more about some of those other elements, but just before we move on, can you tell us a little bit about your diet? What do you eat these days?
I've done a few different things, but with a very foundation of eating very low inflammation type of diet. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease, and all MS symptoms are inflammation. My first symptom was optic neuritis, which is inflammation of the optic nerve, which actually led to me going blind in my right eye. Thankfully, through all these alternative methods I looked into, I got it back. I was blind for 30 days, though, and I had the 3 top neurologists in San Diego all tell me I would never get my vision back. And it actually came back better than before, which is very powerful. I'm very careful about that. And I also follow a protocol I found out about after 2 years of following this way of life and doing these kind of things. And then, well, the first year I was very, very scared and very disciplined about my diet and my lifestyle. And then after that first year's MRI came back completely clear. So the first one showed 10 lesions, and then the second one showed no lesions, all lesions gone. And I had been feeling so great, no symptoms, and racing triathlons. And I thought, hey, that was weird. I guess I don't have this anymore. And people would say, I think you were misdiagnosed because that's very unusual for MS. And I kind of believed it. So I started slacking that year on some things. I never went back to how I used to live, because once you've experienced that vitality and energy that true health gives you, you never go back. But I definitely slacked over that year. And sure enough, that year I had 3 symptoms, one being a major one that is just excruciating. It's called triminioneuralgia, and it's a shooting neurological pain on the side of your face. It was excruciating. And so that really scared me, and I realized, I have this, and I know what to do to prevent it from showing up in my body, and I never want to feel this kind of pain again. I don't want to have this disease. And so I went back to living this way, but, it was hard. I didn't know anybody else with MS that was doing what I was doing. I was like the Lone Ranger. People thought I was crazy, including the top neurologists that I was seeing, not being on medication and doing these diet and lifestyle changes to fight this disease. And so I kind of sometimes, wondered, am I doing the right thing? I mean, I know I'm feeling great now, but what about 5 years from now? What about 10 years from now? And then I found out about this woman named Dr. Terry Wald, who has a TED Talk, and she's all over the internet. Just an amazing, powerful story of someone who was doing everything she knew as a doctor to do for this disease, taking all the right medications and doing everything traditionally that she knew to do, but was declining, and to the point that, she was in a wheelchair and she was about to be bedridden, and she thought, I need to do something about this. This isn't working. What I know to do as a doctor isn't working. And she came up with a protocol that's now known as the Terry Wald's protocol, that within a month she was in a walker seeing her patients. The next month she was walking, and a few months later she was riding her bike, and she speaks all over the world. You can see her TED Talk on the internet. It's absolutely incredible. And so I saw this one day, and my mouth dropped and tears just streamed down my face, because I thought, oh my gosh, there's someone else out there like me, someone that has MS that's doing something alternative and is doing well. And it gave me this confirmation that what I'm doing is going to work. If this woman was in a wheelchair and years later she's well and speaking and walking, and she's been able to reverse what this disease has done in her body, well, I'm not going to have any problem at all. I mean, I was never to that degree, although mine was very serious as well. And so that really encouraged me, and I began following her protocol, which is really cool because it's something that I can follow and have that support in. Later, I found out there was a lot of other people doing this protocol as well, so I wasn't the only one, and she wasn't the only one. There's people all over the world doing this and having great results. And so I have about 9 cups, what equals 9 cups of greens and berries a day, and I'm very, very strict on that. So whether I juice them or eat them raw or just as snacks, I make sure I'm getting that in my body. I'm also huge on oils. We don't take enough oils into our bodies, and we're scared of oils. Oh, oils are bad, and oils are fattening and all these things, but we need good fats, and there's nothing like these oils that are, or the fats that are in these oils that are healthy. Flaxseed oil, krill oil, the fish oil, avocado oil, all these different oils are so healthy for our brain health and our overall health. Those are the main things that I concentrate on, is following that protocol and taking in all these oils. I also follow an Ayurvedic way of living in terms of I do meditation and a lot of the Ayurvedic principles. I have an Ayurvedic neurologist who's incredible at Scripps Integrative here in San Diego, and she has really taught me a lot. Her name is Dr. Clarice Chaudhry, and she's a frequent guest on the Dr. Oz show as well. I've kind of combined a lot of different things, I think, over the years that have really, really worked for me and have absolutely changed my life. I mean, I am a totally different person than I was 6 years ago in every area of my life, not just that I can race a half Ironman or that I eat really well or that, I'm thin and fit and I'm an athlete. That's really the least of it. What has happened spiritually and mentally for me has been incredibly powerful with everything that I've done over the years and the work that I've done.
Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. We are definitely going to go deeper into that side of you, if you will. But I'd love to ask you some questions about your life and life purpose.
Okay.
Do you know what your life purpose is?
I am so clear on my life purpose. My life purpose came out of a deep pain in my life, which was this disease. Getting diagnosed with something is excruciatingly painful. And when you have a family, I had, when I was diagnosed, I had 4 kids under the age of 7 and a husband that I adored. And I just thought my life is over. And seeing what I believe God has shown me over the years and taking this pain and turning it into a great purpose has been amazing in finding my purpose, which it truly is to help other people, encourage, motivate, and inspire them to be healthier. And not just healthier in what we know as a society to be, that if you looked at me 6 years ago, you'd say, oh, she's cute. She had 4 kids. She doesn't look like she had 4 kids. She fits into a small size. Oh, she's healthy. And I was not healthy. Forget that I was skinny. Skinny doesn't equal healthy. I was emotionally not healthy and mentally not healthy. I would have these weird depression type of times where I would get so depressed and I didn't even know why. There's nothing going on, and it would really worry me for my future, if this was going to get worse or if I was going to be like this all the time, and why, where was this coming from? And so just the impact it's had on me has really, doing these changes has really set my life purpose to be very clear, to inspire people to make these lifestyle changes in every area of their life and encourage them that if I can do it, they can do it too, because I was the most undisciplined, unmotivated person. I just, didn't care in a lot of ways about a lot of different areas in my life, or didn't pay attention to working on myself. And I know it's hard, and a lot of people need someone to come alongside them and just give them that support and inspiration and say, hey, I've been there. You can do this. And I think, there's nothing more beautiful than having a purpose in life that gives people hope, because there's nothing worse in life than being hopeless. And so, that's kind of a long answer to your question.
I know, I love it.
But that's it. That's the purpose.
Do you think there were any hints in your life before this disease came in to give you any indication that you were headed in this direction?
It's funny. I've never been asked that. As I look back, for sure, I never had a good relationship with my father, and it was always like a very deep pain in me since I was very young that I was not daddy's little girl, and I didn't have this father that I so longed for. And it created a lot of issues in my life as I grew up and became a young adult with how I just kind of lived. I think that once I got married, and I married someone who's very different from me, just, he should be a motivational speaker. He was 19 and reading, all these motivational books and self-improvement and growing personally kind of books, all these different things. And he would tell me, you need to work on this area of your life with your dad, and you need to work through that, and you need to let go of this image or this desire you have to have this kind of dad. You're just not going to have that, and you need to mourn that and let it go and move on. And so I think over the years, it's a process for sure. When you have that desire to have a certain relationship with, especially one of your parents, and you just know it's not going to happen. To work through that was a huge, strengthening, I guess, emotional and spiritually for me, and to kind of work through that pain, because in my younger years and even early adulthood, I didn't want to touch that subject because it was so painful. So I just didn't even want to think about it or talk about it. And my husband was kind of the one that put it in my face and said, this is affecting your life and this is how, and you need to do something about that. And so I think that was the first steps of kind of stepping into changing parts of me that I didn't want to look at and I didn't want to deal with, and I didn't want to see how it was affecting me or how I could get help. I just thought that this is how it is. It's awful. I don't want it to be, but there's nothing that can happen, or not even looking at how it affected me. And so that was definitely, I think, the beginning steps of entering into this whole kind of self-improvement and changing my life in a, spiritual and mental and physical and emotional way, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how did you meet this wonderful man that's now your husband for 15 years?
Well, I have to admit, I am a cradle robber. I'm a cougar. My kids joke. They call me that as soon as they found out what that meant. He's a lot younger, and I met him in Miami. I was living there and working. I was in international business, and my career was everything. It was my identity. It was everything to me. I loved my job, but I think it really just defined who I was. And I met someone that was just so different from me and so just down to earth and kind, and had gone through a lot in his life. He had gone through addiction in his life, very young age, and gone through rehabs and therapy. And so he came to me just like a 50-year-old, someone who's lived, since they're 50 and he's like 19. And it was just amazing to see someone that could change their life in that way from where he had come, and he had really looked into every area of his life of, what made me use drugs in the first place? Where did this come from? Why would I turn to them? And worked on those areas at such a young age, and then went on to help people to do that. And he still does. He runs the addiction ministry at our church, and he's also a real estate agent here in San Diego as well. But that's what he does as a ministry, is he helps people who are struggling with addiction. So I met him in Miami at 19, and I was at 25.
Oh, I don't think that. I think I read one time that the definition of a cougar is someone that dates someone 9 or more years younger. So I think you're in the clear on that.
Yes, I can't wait to tell my kids.
Although it's pretty hip, I guess, these days. But
yes, we joke.
But I don't think you qualify.
We joke. Darn. Okay, well, cradle robber, I'll take it.
Right. What a gift. So tell me about your spiritual beliefs.
It's so interesting. That's been also kind of an evolution over the last year. My parents are from South America, from Colombia, and so they were Catholic, very strong Catholics. And then when I was 10 years old, they became born-again Christians. And what that brought into my life was, I think, a lot of good and bad. I saw some changes in my father that were very positive. He's always kind of a rageaholic and an angry kind of guy, and I thought like kind of soften him up a little bit, and there were some changes there. And then I grew up in this, and it was very legalistic and very strict, and I believe that instead of drawing me to God, it kind of brought me away from God. So when I graduated from high school and went on into college, and then moved to, I was in DC for a while and in Miami, and I just thought, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't like it. I don't understand it. And I just think it came from a lot of hypocrisy I saw in my own home with my own family, my own parents kind of being in ministries and, running a Hispanic ministry and prison fellowship and doing, all these things, but not bringing anything really back home to us and teaching us what they believed and kind of pouring into us in that way. And so I just saw kind of like a double life being led outside the home, like one way at church and one way at home. So it was a huge turnoff for me. And so as I, became a young adult and was working, I thought, I don't want anything to do with this. And then I met my husband and we got married, and our first son was born, and 2 years later our daughter was born, and he really wanted to start going to church. And I said, absolutely not. It messes kids up. I don't want anything to do with it. And I would just tell him about my past, and I went to this Baptist school, and when all the people were there, and how, it was so legalistic and horrible, and then what it was like at home. And I just had this really screwed up view of God, I believe. He was very persistent about going to church. He really wanted the kids to grow up in church, and coming from a Catholic background. So we ended up going to this Christian church in Fort Lauderdale. My husband loved it, and he had never heard anything like that before. It was very different from the Catholic teachings. And so we kept going back, and I was furious. I was just furious because he was kind of becoming how I grew up, that way of being a Christian. And I was very, very upset about it because I kind of thought, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't marry you like this. But it was really interesting, as I sat there and listened and saw my husband just really, growing and changing as well with his new Christian beliefs. I really realized, and God really showed me that I needed to get to know God on my own. I was an adult now, and I really needed to just search this out on my own and not base it on the way I grew up. And that's what I did. And over the years, it's just become really the foundation. My faith has been everything for me, the foundation of my life. My belief in God has got me through MS. I mean, I wasn't a strong Christian when I got diagnosed with MS. I went to church, and I went to all Bible studies, and I wanted to learn. I wanted it, but I felt like there was a lot in my past, I think, that was keeping me back. And still a lot of issues I had to work through, I guess, with that. And when I got sick, all of a sudden I realized that I didn't have anything else but God. At the time, I was being told I was going to be in a wheelchair. I was being told I had an incurable progressive disease there's nothing I could do about. And there was nothing I could do. And so many times things would happen, and I would pray and then, try to work things out on my own. And pray and then be stressed out and in anxiety about how am I going to work this out. So I wasn't truly giving my problem at the time in my life to God. But in this situation, I had no choice. I had to completely surrender this illness and this thing that was happening in my life to God. And it was very scary because I went through a time where I was angry and I didn't understand why this was happening. And I think, why would you give me 4 kids if I can't even take care of them, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair and be sick with this terrible disease? And so during that time, God became everything to me. And I realized that that's all I have. And I started reading the Bible, which I never opened because, like I said, I grew up in school and youth groups and church all the time. And the minute someone would quote a Bible verse, I would just tune out. I was completely disconnected and I was just shut off. But all of a sudden I was drawn to getting something out of the Bible. I felt like there was something in there I needed to learn and like it was going to show me something. And I remember one day my kids were at school and I was so broken and so scared and just, depressed about this diagnosis. And I went to my room and I found my Bible, which was like in a drawer tucked away. And I just opened it to random page. And I read the verse that talks about how God gives us a peace that passes all understanding. And I had heard that verse my entire life, throughout church and youth group and all these things that I grew up in, and never had it become alive to me and real in my life to me as it did in that moment when I realized that verse was telling me that God was going to give me a peace that would pass all understanding. So even though I was in this awful situation with MS and going through everything, that I was going to have a peace about it. And that's exactly what I got through prayer and just, reading my Bible and talking to God in my own way, not the way I was brought up that it should be, or, the relationship with God that I was, brought up to have, which was very different. I found my own, and it was very real and very beautiful. And I found a lot of strength in that. And so yeah, faith is a huge, huge part of my life. It's everything for me and for my family.
Great story. Thanks for telling us all about that. So just one more question about your spiritual beliefs. So what do you think God is? Do you believe in heaven and hell? What do you believe about all that?
I do believe in heaven and hell. I believe God is merciful and loving and just. And I believe that he looks at our hearts. And it's not in a box like we are taught in so many beliefs, not just Christianity and born-againers, as they call them. Mm-hmm. But, and there's many beliefs. And I believe that God really looks at the heart. And it's not this certain box of well, you must go to the Christian church. And when they do the altar call, you walk up to the front and you accept Jesus into your life. And no, I believe that God really, truly looks in the heart because, I'm sorry, there are so many people out there being raised in different ways and this is all they know. And God's not going to sit there and send you to hell because you didn't fit into the certain box. And so I believe God is just loving and merciful and like the dad that we always wanted, whatever dad, if you had an amazing dad, well, he's even more amazing of a father than your earthly father. And if you haven't, like in my case, he's the father that you've never had, and he will be your heavenly father. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think that, so many people just complicate it so much. And unfortunately, so many beliefs like Christianity push people away from God instead of drawing them to him. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Can you tell me about your daily practice? Do you have some things that you do to stay centered and balanced and connected?
Yes, absolutely. I mentioned I have 4 kids, so our life is really crazy with, school. I homeschool 2 through a charter school, 2 go to regular school. We have activities and all this stuff. And so I have learned over the years that my centeredness needs to start really early in the morning. So I wake up around 5:30, 6, and I drink a green drink. I juice. I really love juicing. I think it's an amazing way to get vegetables and fruits and seeds into your body, a lot of them in a very short amount of drinking. And so it's amazing what that simple thing can do. So I'll juice, I'll drink a green drink, and then I meditate. And that has been so incredible in my life that I've only been doing it, disciplined in it every day as a practice for about 2.5 years now. And I can't even tell you how amazing it was. And again, my Christian beliefs kept me away from that for a long time because, we're told in the Christianity that's not good and it's bad and you're opening yourself up to this and that. And I say you're closing yourself off to a lot if you don't. I think there's ways to meditate that are absolutely a connection with God, and it's not some weird new agey thing. It's something that everyone must do, and scientifically what is proven that it does for the brain is unbelievable, the benefits that it does for the brain. So if you have like any kind of diagnosis, I say you need to meditate. Just start off slow and keep building. That's what I did. And I had a really hard time because I'm really, really hyper and a little ADD. And my mind, I wake up, my husband says I wake up to a conversation that's been going on in my head for a while because I get up and it's just racing. And this just totally changed that part of me. It just made me very centered. I mean, I had a conversation with a friend that's known me since I moved here almost 8 years ago to San Diego. And I was talking to her and she says, Aurora, you're so calm and you're so centered now. It's so different than when I used to talk to you before. And I laugh because I know it's all these things I do, exercising and eating well. But the interesting thing is I was doing all that before I was meditating and I didn't have these kind of effects that I do now. The centeredness, I should say. I didn't have that. And meditation has truly done that for me. So I make sure that after I do my green drink, I meditate. And then I have like a prayer time because for me it's two different things, my meditation and my prayer time. And then I go on about my day, which really consists of, teaching my kids and driving them around everywhere. And then during that time, though, my main priority also is to make sure that I'm feeding my body in a way that feeds and fights this disease. So every decision I make of everything I put in my mouth, I think to myself and I ask myself, is this going to help your MS? Most of the time it's no, and a lot of times it's yes, but I make those decisions because I need to be very disciplined in order to keep this away. And so that's pretty much how I live my life during the day. I just make sure to eat really, really well and I fit in my workouts and do my meditation and just try to live like very, very healthy and intentionally to fight this disease.
Right. So just going back for a second to your meditation practice, do you do a sitting meditation practice, and for how long are you doing that?
I do, and I've actually been able to work now up to half an hour, which took me literally a year to do that. My mind I started a minute at a time basically because I just couldn't quiet my mind because it was just racing so much. And so I do, and sometimes I'll do guided meditation. There's apps. There's like Christian guided meditation. There's some with music and some with like mantras that you can say, or sometimes I use a scripture. I kind of break it up because I can't do the same thing all the time. I get very bored easily. And so that's what I do. But I definitely sit and I sit and make sure everyone's sleeping, that it's quiet. That's why I do it early in the morning. And it's amazing. The days that I don't, I definitely notice a difference.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a special place in your home?
I do. I actually, we have a large kitchen that has a family room connected to it, and then there's 2 French doors that shut. So I shut myself in there, and I sit on the floor in a corner that I know is really quiet, kind of far from everybody. And I just sit and my legs crossed, and it's very peaceful. It's a very peaceful time.
It sounds great. You're making me want to meditate now. So tell me, what about synchronicity? Do you think synchronistic things happen in your life? People show up that are there to help you, surprise, angels? Yeah, absolutely. Since I've been diagnosed and I've taken this other path and just shared my story, which I was very passionate about from the beginning. I really felt like I need to tell everybody what's happened to me. I need to tell everybody what I'm doing. I need to tell everybody how it's working. And I've always been very vocal with my diagnosis. And I have found the most amazing things have happened. I call them divine appointments, where I'll be literally, I've been in Argentina. I've been down the street and I meet people who have MS. Or someone who just met somebody that was diagnosed. And it's in the weirdest ways that the conversation comes up, or someone just starts talking to me or something. Or someone the other day, I was, at actually a Jimbo's getting a juice, and someone commented on an outfit I had on that was like a triathlon outfit, wanted to ask me about it. And so when I told her I was a triathlete, she goes, "Oh, how did you get into that?" And so I said I was diagnosed with MS, and her eyes looked at me and a tear went down her face, and her sister had just been diagnosed. And things like that happen all the time to me. So I absolutely believe that God brings you through a journey many times of pain and brings you through that, and you're obedient and you're faithful in following that path and that journey He has for you, that He has a plan that is way beyond what you could ever imagine it to be. And a lot of that is having these kind of just run-ins with people all the time who just happen to have MS, or know someone that does. It's just,
experienced anything like it. So I absolutely do believe in that. And I definitely believe that they're angels watching over us and assigned to us, I believe, since we're young. And I believe that, we have God guiding us in our lives. I've never felt it like when I got diagnosed and I was so confused about these medications and what to take and, what to do. And I was so scared, and all these medications had all these side effects. And I felt just God's presence and his voice telling me, you're not listening to your doctor, so you're going to do something different. Or you're not going to do this, or you're going to do that, or get online and look at this, read this. It's about oils in the brain, and there's a study. And it was just like it was like the minute that I gave up and said, okay, I just give you this, because I went through a time after I got diagnosed for about 2 or 3 weeks that I didn't want to leave my house, and I was crying, and I was scared, and I was depressed, and I was angry, and it was up and down a roller coaster of these emotions. That's very common when you get diagnosed with anything. And my husband sat me down and said, Aurora, I understand that this is hard and you're going to mourn your health. This is hard for all of us, but you need to do something. You need to fight this, because with what's happening right now in your brain, what's happening up there, you will put yourself in a wheelchair like in a year. You need to fight this, and you need to ask God what he wants to show you through this and how he's going to help you. I just stood looking at him like shocked, because I was just angry at God and I didn't understand, and I was scared to death, but I never once prayed or anything. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I was like, how could you do this to me?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like the change for me. It was that moment when I really just said, okay, take this. There's nothing I can do, and there's nothing I have but you. So please, I don't want it, and I don't want to have this. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. But I'm just giving this to you, and I'm asking it to guide me. And from that moment, it was like he took me by the hand and said, all right, let's go. And it was just this amazing journey, guiding me from one thing to another. I mean, from, to this holistic center I've never heard of in my life that was not even that far from my house, that helped me get my vision back, to another place that showed me about oils, to an Ayurvedic neurologist who, is Buddhist and practices meditation a totally different way and has these totally different beliefs than I did, that I could have said, I'm not going to her, but God's like, no, you're going, and you have a lot to learn from her. And so it was just an amazing journey of having God guide me through, the process.
Mm-hmm. Quite a big divine appointment that you have.
Yes. Sure.
Yes, thank you for sharing all of that with us. It's an incredible time, and it really feels like you're one in many messengers that are bringing us back to nature and other solutions that are not just pharmacologically driven, if that's a word.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
So it's a really exciting time for healing and understanding that, we have everything in natural form that we need to be healthy.
We do. God's given us everything we need to stay healthy, and whatever's coming up, it's things that we're putting in our body and, patterns that we have in our lives, our mindset. I mean, there's so many things that we can do, and they're available to us to change. We just have to be willing.
Mm-hmm. And do you still think that there's a place for traditional medical doctors in the world?
I absolutely do. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti-doctors. I know a lot of people, say that about me, but I just believe that, medication is just prescribed for everything, and we're not given alternative choices. And so, when doctors are diagnosing people with MS, they're not saying, oh, I have a patient, her name is Aurora, and she did this, and that, and I have this other patient who's now well out of a wheelchair. They're not telling any patients about us or this other way. They're just giving them the brochure with the medications and sending them on their way. And that's so sad. And so I think that absolutely, there are times when medicine is a gift and a blessing, but we're not looking at other ways to heal our bodies that are so much more beneficial to us on every level of our lives and don't have all the side effects that a lot of these medications have, both physically and mentally on us. So yeah, I'm not anti it, but it's the last resort in my book.
Right. And I'm sure, and I'll just say this for anybody that might be listening that has MS, I don't think Aurora is recommending that anyone just cold turkey stop your medication program without having a plan. Is that right? Absolutely.
Whenever I speak, I always have like a question and answer time, and the first thing I tell people is I'm not a doctor. I'm just someone that, I have a lot of knowledge, and I've gone through this journey, but I'm not a doctor, so I encourage you to look into that. Yes, it's possible. Many people have gotten off their medications and are not on them and doing really well, but it is a process. You never just stop your medication. And so talk to your doctor and find doctors. If they don't agree with you, find someone that will. There are doctors out there that will work with you to get off of your medication and teach you how to do that and what to do instead. But definitely don't just, think, oh, she's not on it and go off, because I had someone do that once after I spoke, and it's just terrible. You don't want to do that. I'm not a doctor.
Right. Right. Well, you're not a doctor, but you are a triathlete. So let's just talk about that for a couple moments. What was it like to run your first triathlete, and to look back now and see what this crazy fitness plan that you're on has brought into your life?
Oh my gosh. I look back at that time in my life, and that's when I know that God was with me, because I don't know how I did that. Again, I didn't know anybody else with MS at the time. I didn't know anybody who was a triathlete at the time, which is very funny because this is the mecca for triathlons. I mean, we have some of the largest community of triathlons here in San Diego, like probably in the country. But I didn't know anybody else, so I was training by myself and doing all these things by myself to get to the goal of finishing my first race, which was very short, which is now like a warm-up. But that distance took me 9 months to build up to. And the day I crossed that finish line, I actually just got chills. I still get chills thinking about it. Was the most amazing feeling, because something happened the minute I crossed that finish line. I broke these limiting beliefs that I had on myself for a long time, that I can't do this, that I can't do that, the excuses that we give ourselves so that we don't have to do things. Oh, I have 4 kids, I can't do something like that. Oh, I'm too busy. Oh, I don't work out. I don't like to sweat. I'm not fit. I'm not this. And all that stuff went out the window, got thrown in the water I just had to come out of. I mean, it was just the most amazing, freeing feeling, and it was incredibly empowering. And I was hooked. I went home and I went right on to see what the next races were and what was going on in the triathlon community, and I kept signing up for races. And I'll be doing my 3rd half Ironman in October in Miami. And I've done over 21 triathlons now, and I'm absolutely hooked. I just love it. I love what endurance sports does for my body and my mind. When I ride my bike for 56 miles, it's like a meditation for me. It's my time with God. It's my time to pray and my time to think and just be. I don't have a lot of those moments with 4 kids.
Are you riding stationary bike, or are you riding outdoors?
No, I ride outdoors. If it's been a busy day and I'm supposed to ride that day and I can't, I will ride a stationary bike indoors. But usually I'm outside, and it's an unbelievable connection with nature, especially here in San Diego, which is so beautiful to ride here.
Yes, we're so lucky.
Oh gosh, we are. It's just amazing. So yeah, I try to ride outside as much as I can. Everything, swim, run, bike, outside as much as possible.
Right. Can I ask you a question about finances?
Yes.
So how do you afford to be traveling and with your family? I see you out there traveling, taking everyone with you sometimes. How do you afford to do all these races? I'm very blessed because we moved here from Miami, where the market was insane, and we were just banking it, to upstate New York because we wanted to have a different kind of life for our kids than Miami, where the market crashed, and then moved here and the market was crashing even more. And we were in a really bad situation. When you have a huge savings and you think that was my comfort, was we have this huge savings, and then you're living off of it and you see it gone. And you're looking at 4 kids, it is the worst thing in the world. And that was also part of my journey of just working through some issues I have with money and attachment to money giving me a comfort that I wasn't healthy. During that time was when I got sick, the exact time that the market crashed. I had just had a baby the year before, and I get diagnosed with MS. And we're doing all this alternative stuff that's not covered by insurance. And it was amazing just how God kind of provided during that time. But I remember when I looked at what I needed for triathlon, it was so expensive. I remember going on eBay and getting my first pair of shoes and going on internet looking for a cheap bike. And that's how I did my first race. I just got the bare minimum at the lowest prices of everything. And then over the years, my husband, the seeds he's planted and the hard work that he's put in here, coming here knowing nobody and growing his business to where he has today. And he's very supportive of me. He funds my habit, I say. And we love it as a family activity. So when we travel, we all travel together. The last year, I've actually had some amazing sponsors as well. And so I've been able to have some of that covered by my sponsors. But a lot of it is my husband. He's just an amazing man who's very generous and loves me and loves what I'm doing and supports everything I did. I mean, when I told him I was going to do a triathlon 6 years ago, he should have laughed in my face. But he said, you can do this. And the next day he came in with a little bag with tissue paper and my first pair of goggles in there, which I didn't realize you needed when you were swimming. So, so definitely he's just incredibly supportive. It's a very expensive sport for sure.
And, it's not cheap. I mean, the races are not cheap, and the bikes some can be up to $10,000 bikes and things like that. So, I mean, there's definitely ways you can get into triathlon and not spend a lot. But yeah, my husband's an amazing, amazing supportive husband. I'm very thankful for him.
Very nice. So from a woman who never worked out to a sponsored athlete, what an inspirational story. May I ask you a lightning round of quick yes or no questions?
Sure.
Do you think passion and purpose are the same things?
Absolutely. I think if you're not passionate, your purpose isn't going to go anywhere. People are attracted to passion. They are drawn to it. I am. I love meeting people who are passionate in their lives, and those are the people that always have a great purpose. So I think they go hand in hand.
Okay, thank you. Do you think everybody has a purpose?
Absolutely. Everybody has one. You just have to find it and stop making excuses that you don't.
Right. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how important is following your joy and igniting your life purpose?
Oh, 10. Absolutely. A 10.
Did you ever quit your job to follow your purpose? And do you think somebody needs to quit?
I did. Actually, it's funny. Yes, I did. I quit my job once to follow my purpose. And I think that if you don't like where you are, change it. So many people sit in a cubicle every day and wake up, all bummed out to go to work. So it's another day at the office. Well, don't make it another day at the office. You're never going to get anywhere in life by sitting in your comfort zone and not taking risks. My husband and I both are very passionate about that because we've done it. We moved here knowing nobody. I was pregnant with my fourth baby in a market that was crashing to start a business in the most expensive place to live in the country, one of the most. And, you have to take risks. Yes, absolutely. If you don't like your job, leave. Find something else. It'll open up to you.
Right. What brings you great, great joy?
Oh, my family. My family brings me such joy. I love them so much. And we're very intentional with our parenting and our marriage and really work on things like on a day-to-day basis. And I just have such joy seeing, what that has done, not just living life day in, day out, but really looking every day of like, okay, what can we invest in our kids today and their marriage and what, just planning life out. They bring me joy. They bring me the greatest joy. And then I think secondly to that would be helping people, the ones that have told me that they've been inspired by my story or that ask me for help, and then I see them listen to what I have to say and change their lives. That brings me great joy as well.
Great, great. Next question. If you unexpectedly amassed a good-sized fortune, what would you do differently?
Wow, that's huge. You know what? I've always wanted to adopt or foster, and I think I would open up some kind of a home for kids who need to be adopted or out of the foster care system, and especially the kids that foster out of, what do they call that when they they come out of the system at 18? Those kind of kids. I would love to build like a foundation that would just help all those kids and guide them and, college and scholarships and those kind of things. That's what I would do. I think if I had those unlimited funds for sure.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you. What should listeners learn from your life?
Very simple. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can go from, a stay-at-home mom that was not healthy, that was not fit, that didn't work out, that didn't eat well, that wasn't mentally or emotionally healthy at all, and, would get depressed and all these things, and, that changed my life to where it is now, you absolutely can. If you're listening to this and are inspired in any way, to go with it and don't just say, oh, that's great for her, I can't do that, or, it's too late for me, or, I always hear so many excuses from people, and your excuses are just holding you back from your purpose and from having this amazing life. Like, you have no idea what God has for you and how incredible it is until you step into that. And it literally is like stepping out of your life now and into this other life that could be completely different from where you are now. It's pretty amazing.
So rich and delicious. I love that. What is the best way for people to connect with you if they'd like to learn more about you?
Well, I'm all over the internet. I have a website. It's auroracolello.com. I'm on Instagram. I have a Facebook page. I have a public page. It's Aurora Colello Public. And I have a blog. It's healthyandheals.net. So you can find me all over the internet. I'd love to connect with you.
And what if there happens to be a listener out there that's so inspired that I didn't ask you about asking this question, but what if there's someone out there that would like to donate money to support you in your triathlon quest?
I would say, donate that money to an amazing, nonprofit for foster kids and those kind of children, because honestly, I would never want anyone to send me money for that. I think I'm just so blessed right now and doing what I love, and I'm so blessed to be able to do it. And like I said, my husband's so supportive, and I have amazing sponsors and people in my community that I would rather that money go elsewhere.
That's very nice. Well, it's been such a pleasure getting to share your story with you today. Thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off today?
Oh, thank you for having me. I think I would just say, if anyone's listening and you have been diagnosed with something, or you know family members that you can encourage them that, you know, there are so many other routes out there that your doctor's not telling you about, even if they are one of the best doctors around in your area. And just to look out of the box at even things that might be kind of weird or unusual. That could be the very thing that's going to help you and heal you. And so I just, you know, would encourage you to be open to those kind of things. That makes a big difference.
Right. Thank you for that. You've been listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or on lifepurposeadvisor.com. We thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about finding your own life purpose, please visit me at www.lifepurposeadvisor.com. We look forward to serving you, and we'll see you next time.